you all for joining the July edition of Dev Talks Meetup. Today, Enes Lisovac will talk about one exciting topic, what it means to be a true IT professional. Enes is a solution architect at Authority Partners, and he's working in the IT industry for more than a decade now. He started his career as a junior software developer from a different domain, automation and electronics, so he had additional challenges. He worked on different size projects and in different environments, from startups, small and big, to large legacy enterprise systems with fixed or flexible budget projects and waterfall or agile methodologies. These projects include different domains, like online processing of business transaction, healthcare systems for humans and animals, the air travel industry, and the marketing industry. Enes is a true IT professional and a big fan of the cloud from the very beginning. He also tends to develop new solutions in the cloud. Besides that, he is a father of two beautiful children and a gym addict. So when he's not coding, he's either spending time with his kids or lifting the weights at the gym. Enes, tell us, please, what it means to be a true IT professional. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Anissa, and thanks everyone for joining this session. Like Anissa said, I'm more a technical person, so this is not like a best topic, for me, first time to speak about, non-technical things and everything. So I hope you will find this session interesting and useful. And Anissa, thank you one more time for this introduction. I will share my screen now. And give me just a moment, and please let me know when you can see it.
We can see it now. Thank you.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. Thanks. So last time we had a session with our colleague Adnan Chatovic, where we saw how we can be, happy and healthy professionals. And if you have missed that session, I strongly suggest you to watch the recording. And today I will actually continue in this non-technical direction, and we will see what it means to be a true IT professional. So, what is the goal or motive for this session today? As we all know, in last decades we had a huge expansion and progress of the IT industry. And this resulted with, I would say, too many different experiments out there, too many different technologies and frameworks, different management approaches, huge demand for people, and everything else that we can witness. And this is especially true for the last decade, I would say. And now we have a situation where employers have high expectations from their employees, and the employees are somehow lost in all of this. And as a consequence, they are mainly focused to technologies and tools, and they forgot about other important things. So this is reflected in different situations, starting from personal career path, and I would say, wrong choices when it comes to motives to go into IT industry at first, by looking at the money as most important thing, or we forgot about our personal life and our health. We forgot about the importance of mentors and their role in our career and in life in general, all up to, I would say, some wrong expectations when it comes to companies and etc. And to be honest, sometimes I even think we have forgotten what is our purpose or the goal, and how should we get to it. So today's session will try to answer and discuss some of these dilemmas and offer some sort of guidelines on how to navigate ourselves in this, really complex universe, and to emphasize some important things that I believe we have forgotten along the way. So our world and processes, right? So let's start from the very beginning. Do we ever ask ourselves, what is our purpose, or better to say, what is the purpose of our knowledge and experience and the work we do? What is the purpose of the IT industry in general? So, of course, it depends in which industry or domain we work, but in general, our main goal is always to, either to automate things so something or somebody out there works with better performance, to create software that will make people's life easier, or to develop software for our clients, which then they can use to, build some sort of business model around it so that they can earn money and etc. At the end, we always want to make people happy, our clients happy and satisfied with the work we've done for them. And we also want to make, our client customers happy and satisfied. We want to produce good quality products and etc. So if you want to be a professional, first you have to know your purpose in this chain. So if you are a software developer, for example, don't think that technology is so much important, like if the purpose is only to itself, because it's not. And in most of the cases, it does not represent any value to the client or their customers. Or if you are a project manager, for example, don't think that your goal or purpose is to have a backlog with backlog items on it, or that you have to show us that, I don't know, you are a Jira, TFS, or Excel guru or whatever. But be aware that these tools are there only to help us to achieve the final goal, and that's good quality product with happy client and their customers. And for some reason, we are losing this track in the last couple of years. So, we can often witness situations where technologies for the project are chosen based on the personal knowledge or, personal preferences. And we can hear endless discussion why, let's say, React is better than Angular or vice versa. But we rarely hear discussions or witness situations where selection of the technology is based on the actual project needs. We rarely hear that someone is actually spending and investing time and effort in investigations and comparisons of these different technologies, and then selecting the best one, having in mind that one will cover, project requirements at that moment, but also in the future. The one that will speed up the development process, for example, and thus save our and clients' time, the one that will save, clients' money and etc. So the industry is usually teaching us about the tools and how to use them, but unfortunately, it is not teaching us enough about our purpose, our main goals, priorities, and etc. So who can teach us these things? Who can explain us our purpose in the chain? Who can explain us, the goals? Who can tell us about the priorities, or give us advices in which directions we need to take, or how to behave in specific situations, and similar. So I think the answer is actually, quite obvious here, and I would say mentors. So if you ask me, this is the most important part, and in some cases it is totally forgotten, or in other cases it is oversimplified, or in other cases it is defined as a role or job and similar, but I think it should not be like that. Personally, I think that we have to see good mentors and good mentorship always, and this is especially important at the beginning of, our careers. And so for the younger colleagues, I think having a good mentor at the very beginning of their career is actually mandatory. So these days, younger colleagues, they don't think about this too much, or they don't see it as a really important thing. And the fact is that, good mentors will teach us a lot, and they will lead us through every aspect of our job, which will make us more complete persons and professionals. This might sound a little bit hard, but in many cases, the mix of youth and a bit of experience can easily lead to arrogance. And the mentors are there actually to prevent us to end up in this trap. This trap will make us part of the group of people who do not care about others, who think they are the smartest one in the room, who are not willing to accept and acknowledge their mistakes, or the ones who do not think about, UX and the UI as an important thing while developing apps, or the ones who are calculating with the estimates and etc. So my advice to younger colleagues, seek for good mentors because they will reveal your strengths, but more importantly, they will reveal your weaknesses. And this will give you a real image of yourself. This will give you a sense where do you stand or belong when it comes to your team and company. So having this strong ground under your feet at the very beginning of your careers is actually, in my opinion, priceless. And my advice to older colleagues with more knowledge and more experience, be mentors. Don't avoid this, and if you can be a good mentor, but don't be a mentor because you will be paid for that, and you see this as a chance to earn extra money, or don't be a mentor if you don't have time for it. Don't be a mentor if you will oversimplify things, and this process by only assigning and reviewing tasks that from your mentee and etc. So you should be a true mentor to younger colleagues where you will put yourself in their shoes and help them to be first accepted in their new environment, to help them in their first tasks, to spend time with them by actively listening, their problems and challenges. You should be their support. You should motivate them. You should teach them how to communicate, with their team members, how to be a team player, how to communicate with clients, and much more. So, and trust me, you too will have a lot of benefits from this process because you would be surprised how much we can actually learn from younger colleagues and how younger colleagues can reveal us that we are in the shell or that we are somehow biased, or that because of the tree we often don't see a forest and similar. In any case, either being a mentor or mentee, this process will help you to become a professional like no other. And now let's discuss one of the, I would say, biggest distractions in our IT world and how important it is. So money versus, everything else. So the reason for this topic is something I see as a trend in the last couple of years. People are actually running for money, and their only criteria for choosing their career path or project or company is actually, how much will I be paid? In most of the cases, whoever offers more wins, right? And this can be really bad, in my opinion, especially in our IT industry, because among other things, it can lead us to the point where we have wrong image about ourselves. We may think that we worth more than we really do. And if we add other parameters to this equation, like, not having proper mentor or not being in the right environment for that time and for the future, in a year or two, we might be in a big problem. And please don't get me wrong here, because I don't want to say that money is not important or anything like that, especially if we take into consideration like real life and possible situations that we might be in. But whenever you have a situation, where you have to, let's choose between money and good mentorship, or between money and knowledge or experience, please wait for a moment and try to see the impact of your decision in a long run. Because if you want to become a professional, money will not get you there, but the professionalism can get you money. And let me give you an example here. Since I've been on the other side too, I had many situations where, employee came to me asking for higher salary, for example. And after we actually explored all normal questions and arguments, I'm trying to find out like if they are satisfied with their progress, environment, company in general, and similar. And in many cases, they were happy and satisfied with their progress, with the environment, with the company. But at the end of the day, their main argument was something like, well, I'll be honest with you, other companies actually offering me more money. When you ask them a little bit more about that company, like, about their working culture, the environment, and the potential for their self-development, in the future, or how much that company actually invests in education, or with what type of clients this company, usually work with, or which domains they cover, what is their main technology stack, and things like that. They don't know a lot. They usually know a little bit about the tech, the technology stack, and the project that they will start on, about the salary, of course, and the number of vacation days. So higher salary or more money is a valid argument, of course, but it cannot be the only parameter in these processes. And if you want to become a professional, you should never let money to be only your most important guide, when making these type of decisions. So you should invest in knowledge and experience primarily, and trust me, money will wait you at the end. It will not run away. If you change these priorities, you might get more money at the beginning, but soon enough, you will reach the limit and you will be in a position where you cannot get more money in that place, in that company where you work. But you cannot get it on another place too, because, now your knowledge does not actually reflect the years of your experience. So, and this is a big problem. So remember one more time, if you want to become a professional, money will not get you there, but the professionalism can get you money. So the next thing I want to actually discuss today is approach, our approaches to work, and different views, how we can actually see same thing differently. And here I will use maybe a little bit strange analogy, but I think it will be interesting. A few months ago, I actually built a garage next to my house, and I want to share my experience about the workers that were included in this process and how I actually made that process, how I compare it with what we do usually. So after we completed, ground preparations and foundation and everything for the garage, we started with the walls, right? And in some moment, I clearly saw that one of the walls is actually not aligned, and it has some slope. And I immediately warned the worker about that. And he said, "Hey man, don't worry. Your eyes deceives you. You'll see after we complete the full height." And of course, after they completed the wall, the slope was still there. Then the main worker told me, yes, it still has a small slope, but don't be petty, because you will put the mortar on it, and then you can easily align and level up everything. And I said, okay, like, makes sense. And other workers came to put the mortar, and I warned them about the wall and the slope and everything. And they said, oh, well, the slope is not so small. We will see if we can actually level up this. We'll do our best. And yet, of course, at the end, they didn't. And then, they started defending themselves that the slope was too big, and they fix the thing, as much as possible from their side. But, again, don't be, too petty. It cannot be perfect, right? But they then suggested me something, they said, well, if you want this wall to be perfect, you can actually put, ceramic tiles on it, because, and then they explained ceramic workers can actually, use the glue for these ceramic tiles to level up everything. And I think you see a problem and the pattern here, right? And sometimes we have same approach to our work, where, let's say, account managers or sales departments are focused, only on signing the contract with the client, and they promise a lot. And then project managers and architects are there to deal with the consequences. Some of these problems will be passed to the dev team in some moment, and then the software developers will pass some of these to the QA, relying that the QA will cover everything, that they will find all of the issues, and etc. And by doing so, we often end up near to production or in production with the problems. And then we start actually to do the same thing. Like, we start with the new proposals to the client, looking for some quick fixes. adding new layers, in our architectures and etc. The point is that at the end, client's time and pocket suffers, right? So I think it is quite same as with the construction workers, right? Of course, not always, but often. And we're doing same things, but somehow, we think that in our case, this is just fine, And while we actually speak about, problems that we usually cause, one of the usual ones are bugs, right? And here I actually want to see how we can, see same thing differently. And let me give you an example. I joined the team as a team leader, and the team had like 9 software developers at that moment. And the team was really good, but there was a problem with the quality. Soon enough, I actually, saw that, they've been producing solid number of bugs in almost every sprint. And that was a problem for me, even, even if client was not actually complaining about that. And, we were on the lunch one day and one of the team members was, really, really mad while he was talking on the phone. And after he, hanged up, we asked, what is the problem? And he explained that, he's struggling with his car, or better to say, with the car mechanic for 3 days at that moment. And, he was spending his money for the fixes that were not actually, solving the problem. And he spent like $200 and he was really mad because thing was still not fixed and everything. And I was really surprised how mad he was actually because of all of that. And that inspired me actually to, how to prepare the talk about the quality and bugs for the team on that project. So one day, we gathered around the whiteboard, and I started with the math. I've told them that, I have a statistic about the time that was spent in the last 6 sprints on fixing the bugs. In average, it was like, 27 hours, per sprint, which is about 3 hours per person per sprint. At first, not much, right? Then I actually multiplied this number with, $40 because that was the hour rate that client was paying us. And on monthly basis, client was actually paying more than $2,000 extra. Yearly, you can do the math, but it was more than $25,000. And then I said, I will not use real names here. Hey, John Doe, you were ready to kill your mechanic because of the $200. But so what would you do if this was like 10 times or even 100 times, bigger than that? And remember, I told them, remember, client is actually paying you for your work all the time, but every month you are sending them an extra invoice with a total of $2,000 plus. Everyone actually was shocked a little bit, because this was the first time that someone actually explained them this, problem in this way, and they were actually able to visualize and to process this, much better. From that moment, whenever we had, tasks in done state, or when we were doing, code reviews, we had a saying like, whether your task will increase the monthly invoice for the client. And the situation was actually much better in the future sprints. So as a professional, you should think about the work you do and the quality of your work always. You should take a look at your work from different perspective, from different views, most importantly from the client perspective, and try to do your job perfectly, right? Always. If that's not possible, you should then try to do your job in such a way that, your work will not cause additional costs or delays to the client or cause additional problems to the others in the chain. And, even if this is not possible, you should raise a red flag and be honest about it, and you should ask for help or search for another solution instead of relying or delegating, on someone else in the chain to actually do your work or to deal with the problems, that you caused. Okay, so the next important topic is actually education. And I put this as a separate slide because education in general is really complex topic, and we could have a series of sessions talking only about this subject. But today I want to cover only one part, a part of it, especially important for the IT industry as one of the fastest growing industries out there. And this is actually a question related to education. And that is like, who is responsible for my knowledge, or who is responsible for your knowledge and your competencies? You know, often from people, when I talk with colleagues or when I was a participant in the process of defining education strategies for the companies that I work with, I saw a lot of misconceptions around this. And often from people I heard things like, I'm not satisfied with my progress. I've stuck with this project and these technologies, and I'm not learning, anything new. It seems that the company, does not care about this. Or when I talk with, let's say company officers or company managements, I often hear something like, how can we motivate them to learn, or even how can we force them to learn, and etc. So you see, we have some problems around this, in my opinion. So why would you, by default expect that company has to additionally invest in you, or that your education is, or better to say that your, education is company responsibility only? Or on the other side, why are you being in a position where somebody has to motivate you, or even worse, force you to learn, and yet you are in one of the fastest growing industries, right? So let's take software developer as an example here, but it can be applied, of course, to other roles or other career paths. The world around us is working something like this. You are an individual who, selling your knowledge, experience, and skills on the market out there. You are competing with other individuals that has to offer less, same, or more than you. Based on the fact how competitive you are, you will get the job or not, with this or that type of conditions, based on how good you are. It's that simple, right? And now if we put this into the context of education, I would say that you are primarily responsible for your education, because education is your investment that will produce you, if I could put it that way, with the goods that then you can sell to others. Of course, I can agree that education is or should be, shared responsibility between the employer and employee, especially in our industry. But first steps should be always made from your side. I would say that you and company should meet, somewhere at the halfway when it comes to this. As a professional, you should actually appreciate any opportunity to learn something new, especially if this is, offered by the company, because this should not be, treated as guaranteed, because it's not. And you should first check education resources that company has and offers before you simply add additional, education requests to the list. There's nothing wrong with, adding additional education requests on the list, but those educational requests, should be put into the context, or better to say, you should make a case which explains what are the benefits for the project or for your team or for company, right? You should align these resources, you should align these requests, having in mind company needs and company strategies too, and not only your personal preferences. At the end, I will be again honest, and I will give you my personal advice. As a professional, invest in yourself by yourself whenever possible. If you develop this culture, you will progress much faster, and you will avoid any traps or possible disappointments, along the way. So enough about this topic. Let's talk a little bit about team players. So when we talk about team players, my experience taught me that you can be a team player on two different levels. micro level, like let's say as a part of the team on a specific project or initiative, and or you can be a team player on the macro level, which is actually company level. At first, this might look same, but my experience taught me that it isn't. And I think this will be clear when we go through some examples, but my point here is that if you want to be a professional, you should cover both levels, and you should be a team player at both levels. So when we talk about, micro level, being a part of team on a specific project or initiative, for example, we often witness, some weird situations and behaviors. For example, we can see, team leaders who do not lead by example, and they strive to, I would say, create followers instead of the new leaders. Or we might see that two or more persons are not communicating, even if they are part, of the same team. Or we can see a person who is not willing to share their knowledge with the others in the team, and etc. I don't want to go into extremes here, but I bet you all witnessed same or similar situations. And we already mentioned some of the causes for these behaviors, like not having proper mentors at the beginning of their careers, or not knowing, or they still might not know their purpose in the chain, and etc. So I will not talk too much about the causes here, and instead let's focus on how things should be, so everyone can actually see where they are when it comes to this. There is no true professional if it is not a true team player. True team players should always think about other team members. Shortly, this means that you should always evaluate your decisions and actions, having in mind bigger picture all the time and the impact to the team. And this includes things like simple things like when you code, pay attention to your code quality, because someone at some point in time will actually read your code. When you make a mistake, don't avoid to accept that mistake, or even worse, don't blame others, in the team. Or when you commit to an estimate or deadline, respect that, because that might have an impact to your team member or whole team at the end, or your company, and etc. And then things like when you see a colleague who is constantly working overtime, for example, you should not ignore that, but you should offer your help. Trust me, the time will come where you will need some help too. When you're trying to solve some problem, include others in these brainstorming sessions, because and hear their suggestions and opinions, because you will end up with much better solution than if you would do that alone in most of the cases, and expect actually help from the others, and etc. These characteristics will make a clear distinction between you and the others, and thus speed up your career progress. And this was the micro level, and now let's talk about macro level, company level. I often witness good team players on the micro level, but they were kind of really passive when it comes to macro company level. And let me give you a couple of examples here. So how many times HR department or talent acquisition department or similar contacted you to help them, with the interviews for a specific position in your company? And how many times, you simply said no, or, I don't have time, or yes, but let's talk in a month, or similar. So how many times you've seen a chance where company can improve itself, but how many times you actually invest some time and thinking about that, and you actually discuss this with the company officers, for example, explaining them a problem and your vision for potential solution or the improvement, and etc. Or how many times you were honest on your exit interviews when leaving the company, having in mind the company, good things, but also the bad things, so that they can improve itself, or having in mind that your colleagues are staying in that company. So that should be a motive plus for this. So you should know that these other teams and departments in our company has their purpose, like really important purpose. And we need to respect those people first. We need to respect their job, their time, because they are just another link within the same chain. So if one link breaks, the chain is broken, and it's useless, right? So what makes a difference between a professional and non-professional is the fact that the professional has extended their participation and contribution from the micro level up to this macro level. And by doing so, everyone else in the chain has more benefits from it. They increase the area where they can make an impact. And you should be also aware that, this will increase your value in the eyes of, everyone else in that chain. So that would be it about team players. Let's see how, we should say actually no. So, there are kind of three parts, like when it comes to no, like when should we say it, how should we say it, and to whom we should say no. So this one is actually interesting and tough. Knowing when, to whom, and how to say no, takes practice. So, there is no single correct answer. And since this is a huge complex topic, I will try to simplify things here, maybe, oversimplify a little bit and point out some, important situations or parameters applicable to this topic and our industry. So when you should say no. For this, I would take an example of elaboration phase. As you probably know, this is the phase where we actually try to understand client requirements, where we're trying to define the scope, usually in a form of MVP. The phase in which we need to design the architecture and make technology choices, which could impact the whole business, right? Where we need to think about team members' portfolio, where we define estimates and costs, and etc. And obviously, as you can see, most important part or phase when it comes to the future of the project, right? And however, in practice, this is one example where when biggest pressures are created, I would say. For some reason, we are always promising to the clients that we can have a proposal ready for them yesterday. And then the architect or the team is searched for, and it is put it under the huge pressure when it comes to deadlines for the proposal. And this is really bad, and I encourage you to say no in situations like these, because if something is promised without proper understanding or the consultations with the experts or similar, then we should try to correct these mistakes, instead of pushing forward and consequentially, producing even more mistakes or problems. In this example, I would say it's quite obvious to whom we should say no, right? And please don't hate me for this. But of course, this should not and cannot be, simple no, and it should include strong arguments and explanations, why no. But we'll discuss that part in a moment. In general, my personal rule is to say no to anyone who tries to put me under the pressure as a consequence of other people or processes mistakes and without being honest with me. Again, this is my personal rule developed over the years. So I don't know if this is something that you can find in a book. So take this one with the reserve. And I will just repeat it one more time. You can say no to anyone who tries to put you under the pressure as a consequence of other people, or processes mistakes without being honest with you. This last part is really important here. Like honesty is really important part here, because if we work, obviously, we will make mistakes, and there's nothing wrong in making a mistake. But the problem is when you want to sell me a mistake as a normal, usual thing, standard, best practice, and etc. I heard a lot in my career. And when you actually don't want to deal with the cause and try to solve the cause, but instead you are occupied with the consequence only. And when we talk about team, and if you are a part of the good team, you should always think twice before you say no to any team member, because it is not so frequent that a team member actually deserves no. Their request for help or situation, that they need help is usually a consequence, of another cause, like organization, bad organization, or wrong task assigned to wrong person. Their productivity at that moment maybe is less than usual, and etc. But none of these reasons deserves no. So please think twice before you actually say no to your, colleague in your team, to your team member. And when we talk about client and saying no to the client, this part is more tricky. In general, avoid saying no to the clients, not because we cannot do that, but because in many cases, when we need to say no, we are the cause of a problem. So before you say no to the client, think about why at least 3 times. If you will say no to the client because you have a technical limitation, you should know that this is not their problem, or that they will not even understand what you're talking about. So be aware that in these situations you will probably need to be honest about this, or that you have to invest additional time and effort to explain them everything in more details. If you will say no to the client, like because you cannot do something, either because of the time, or you don't have enough resources of this or that type, you should prepare at least one possible workaround or solution for that situation, and you should clearly outline the risks and their consequences if the client is forcing you to go in that direction. The point is that you should not go out in front of the client without the solution, and if you are willing to accept your mistakes, and if you are honest with yourself and with the client, trust me, you will always have a solution. And at the end, how to say no. And obviously, again, this depends to whom you are trying to say no. But, if in general, we have to be honest and we have to be clear. Don't say no by leaving open space for insistence, from the other side, or by leaving false hope that you might do that. On the other side, clearly explain, your reasons and arguments for saying no. And you can do this by focusing on why are you actually saying no. So by doing so, you will probably evaluate a lot more scenarios and possible solutions. And in some cases, you might even, see that you can say yes. And after you clearly explain your no, this will help, requester side to understand the situation, to learn for the future if there was some mistake, in the previous step, to think about, other possible workaround solutions, or this will simply get them more, material for further negotiation with the client, either to buy some time or to, move deadlines, or and etc. And if we are talking about client scenarios and how to say no to clients, as previously said, we should first know limitations of our clients when it comes to technicalities, and what they can actually understand and what they cannot understand. So if we talk, about, let's say, UX and UI part, please use wireframes or mockups or prototypes, to show them the difference or benefits of your solution comparing to what they want. Or if we talk about, business side and rules, you can use different type of diagrams for this, like, activity or process flow diagrams, or different mind maps, and etc. And use those to explain yourself, or your solution. And if we are dealing with the, like, more technical client, the client that can understand the technical part, the technical implementation, in this case, please use, proof of concepts. I cannot tell you how important these different artifacts are, in these situations. Of course, you will spend maybe additional time and effort to create them, but trust me, results will be amazing. Because one proof of concept, will actually show them a lot more than, we can actually, speak on some meetings, writing in the emails and etc. So the point here is that, we have a way better approaches to show and explain our no instead of simply saying no or by explaining our problems or causes or reasons for no on, during the talk on some meetings through emails and etc. In general, I would encourage you to say no because focusing is about saying no. When you want to say no to somebody, you have to put much more effort in different evaluations and analysis than when you want to say yes, right? And these analysis and evaluations might even get you to the yes at the end. So in any case, you will end up with much better results at the end. And now let's talk about what's next, right? Or why did we talk about all of this? It's simple. Present time, and especially future is really challenging. And, we could see that, seniority and professionalism is not only about, writing code or being familiar with the language or framework or similar. Let me tell you, modern developers need to know how to speak with the clients, how to automate deployments, how to make technological choices that may, affect entire business, how to work in distributed teams, how to help. They should be able to help clients to define and prioritize requirements. They have to be able to report their progress. They should be able to make demos, to deal with change management, to help with pre-sales and sales activities when needed, to estimate, time and costs, to interview new team members, to improve software architectures, deal with non-functional requirements and service level agreements, especially in the world of cloud, right? Keep an eye of new technologies, worry about, user experience and user interface. Know, understand, and keep an eye on different, regulations when building softwares like PCI DSS, HIPAA, GDPR. Make decisions, based on trade-offs and much more, much more. As you can see, the list is actually, huge. Or if we talk about modern project managers, they should too cover a lot, lot more than what is usually, happening in practice. For example, they can be included in the elaboration phases where they can, help with other things like, market research, competitive analysis. They can help us with the UX UI part too, because, we're living in the world of, great and easy to use tools. So why not? They can be included in pre-sales and sales activities. They can help with the marketing campaigns. They should be able to present products, to potential clients and partners and etc. So even if the title is like a new reality, I think the thing is that it's not actually new. I would say we are living with this for at least, last couple of years now, but the thing is that now it's just getting, being more and more obvious. And, if you want to be competitive on the market out there, you should strive to accomplish, all of this or as much as possible. And, being a professional from day one will help you a lot with this goal. At the end, I want us to all stop for a moment and think for a moment about, this and everything we said today. By doing so and by investigating more, we can check actually where are we in this universe, right? And I would say that the only, precondition for this is to be honest with yourself. Thank you all for joining this session, and I hope you will find it useful. Thanks, everyone. Bye.